You know that feeling when you just feel completely stuck, maybe overwhelmed, or just really unsure about what's coming next.
Oh, absolutely. We've all hit that wall, especially when life uh, throws a real curveball.
Yeah, you're left scrambling, trying to find your feet again. There's often this, like, intense pressure, isn't there, to push through, seize the day, optimize
I
everything.
know that kind of
And
pressure.
look, sometimes that can be really powerful, genuinely helpful for some people. But what our sources today are suggesting is that for a lot of us, that pressure can actually be, well, kind of dangerous
Dangerous, yeah.
because it often misses the mark.
It does. It's hard enough just finding the motivation some days, just to get out of bed, let alone trying to be great when you're simply trying to process what's happening.
That kind of messaging, even when it's well-intentioned, it often doesn't account for the fact that everyone's on their own unique journey, facing
Mhm.
completely different challenges.
It tends to bypass the need for like self-compassion and real understanding.
Mm,
Instead, it pushes this prescriptive, you should be this way approach. And honestly, that's often not very helpful or even sustainable long term.
that really resonates. And it's precisely what we want to unpack in today's deep dive. We've got a stack of fascinating sources here, mostly centered around this really insightful interview with an expert. She has this incredible knack for translating complex stuff like neuroscience and psychology into practical, actionable strategies.
Making it usable.
Yeah. So our mission today is to pull out those key insights, the surprising facts, and the strategies you can actually use. We want to help you understand not just what people are going through in uncertain times, but why it matters, and crucially, how you can apply these ideas to your own life, no matter where you're at right now.
And our guide for this, the expert you mentioned, she's an award-winning leadership strategist. You might have seen her on TED or TEDx.
Hmm.
She's known for making these, quite complex psychological ideas feel really accessible. Her insights genuinely offer something valuable for pretty much anyone, whether you feel like you're thriving or frankly just trying to get through the day.
So what is it that really sets her apart, from the maybe more typical motivational speakers out there?
Well, it's definitely not about wearing, as she puts it, rainbow glasses
Yeah.
or just blindly accepting whatever happens. Her message is more this blend, this powerful mix of inspiration and really greedy, realistic psychology.
Hmm.
She's a big champion for self-compassion and empowering people to forge their own paths rather than telling them how they ought to be. It's about finding your way forward.
I was really struck by how early her own personal story started shaping these insights. She talks about her world being, well, completely turned upside down when she was just 6, her parents divorced. How did that moment eventually lead her here?
Yeah, that was huge for her. It profoundly challenged her perception of reality as a young child. It forced her to grapple with the idea that what she thought was solid, what was true, wasn't necessarily fixed. And in struggling with that, she found something interesting. Focusing on helping others, people she saw as maybe worse off than her, actually made her feel better.
Ah, okay.
It sparked this real passion for serving others, led her to volunteer, run empowerment groups, even as a teenager. She found real fulfillment in helping people navigate their own stuff.
That's fascinating how that early discovery about helping others sort of evolved as she got older. After studying psychology and law, she spent about 10 years in the corporate world. And that's where she noticed something about collective misery.
Yeah, exactly. She saw this widespread unhappiness and noticed how it was often kind of perpetuated by the language people used. You know, those common phrases.
Like, oh gosh, it's Monday.
Exactly, or can't wait for the weekend. People were constantly voicing this state of not wanting to be there, almost like they were actively rehearsing their dissatisfaction.
And she figured out this wasn't just like harmless venting, right? It was actually doing something.
Precisely. She observed it was actively shaping their physiology, their feelings, their sense of reality, and yeah, even their performance at work. It created this massive self-perpetuating cycle.
Wow. So what does she do with that realization? That must have been a big moment.
It was. She basically went all in, reignited that passion for human behavior, dove into more research, got coaching qualifications, studied positive psychology. She even did a master of business to get a handle on the systemic issues at play.
Right, the bigger picture.
Yeah, and her drive to serve, that led her to start offering free lunchtime workshops even while still in her corporate job. The first one apparently drew over 100 people,
Whoa.
and the feedback was just overwhelmingly positive. Simple concepts about mindset, about happiness. They were leading to real, tangible changes for people. That initial material actually became the foundation for her book on the art and science of happiness.
So it proves that even pretty basic psychological understanding can make a huge difference.
Absolutely. It doesn't always have to be overly complicated.
But it wasn't all smooth sailing for her, was it? She talks about facing rejection, social failure as a speaker sometimes, like times she get an audience together and they just weren't feeling it. What did she learn from those experiences?
Her core belief, really, is that success comes from just consistently going for opportunities, even after you get knocked back.
You just keep trying.
You just go for another one.
Yeah.
That repeated exposure, that's how you build genuine comfort and resilience. And this leads directly into her philosophy about being 10 steps ahead.
Ah, okay. What does that mean exactly?
She emphasizes that an expert, someone sharing insights, doesn't need to be at the absolute pinnacle, the top of the pyramid on their topic. You just need to be passionate, genuinely want to add value, and be maybe about 10 steps ahead of your audience in understanding that specific area.
So the key takeaway for you listening isn't necessarily about achieving perfection or becoming the ultimate guru.
Not at all.
It's more about being authentically prepared to serve your audience. Doing that heavy lifting, the research, the framing, boiling down complex stuff into something digestible, you do that for them. It's about respecting their time and attention.
Exactly. And that shift in focus is critical. You move from thinking about yourself, will they like me? Am I good enough? To asking, how can I add the most value here? How can I genuinely serve these people?
Right.
When you make that pivot, the platform stops being about self-promotion and becomes a genuine service to the community. It's really about being of value.
Okay, let's shift focus now to what people are actually experiencing, especially in these, well, complex times. Our expert, observing the situation in places like Australia, pointed out it's way beyond just a health crisis. Even where numbers were relatively low, the ripple effects, job insecurity, future uncertainty, global economic shifts, they're profound.
Big picture stuff.
Yeah, huge things, largely outside our individual control, but they weigh heavily on everyone.
And we tend to get consumed by that uncertainty, don't we? Carrying it around. Our expert describes the spectrum like 4 main ways people seem to be reacting.
Okay, what are they?
Well, first, you have those feeling stuck, just in limbo, can't make plans, deeply frustrated by all the unknowns. You can almost feel the paralysis.
Yeah, I recognize that one.
Then there are those feeling overwhelmed. For them, it's just too much to handle, leading to serious mental health challenges, loneliness, anxiety. They really don't know where to turn sometimes.
Okay, that's tough. What else?
On a maybe more positive side, you find the realistic optimists. These folks see the situation, tough as it is, as maybe an opportunity, a chance to reset, reflect, take control of what they can influence. They're pragmatic, but hopeful.
Realistic optimism. I like that term.
And finally, there are the doer deniers. These are the people pushing themselves and often pushing others too, way past burnout. They're treating business as unusual like it's just business as usual, not really acknowledging how profoundly different things are.
Right, just powering through regardless.
Exactly.
Now, what seems really crucial here is that these aren't fixed states, are they?
Not at all. That's the key point. They're fluid.
So you could feel all those things. Stuck, overwhelmed, maybe a flicker of optimism, even denial. All in one day. Maybe even 1 hour.
Absolutely. And that's precisely why those simple slogans can be problematic. Things like seize the day or carpe diem. While they can be inspiring in some contexts, they might feel, well, dangerous or just plain invalidating if they don't acknowledge where someone actually is on their journey, in their coping process.
Yeah, it can feel dismissive.
It really can. These complex, nuanced situations, you just can't boil them down to a 30-second soundbite. It's not about picking a team, like team optimistic or team pessimistic.
Right.
It's about recognizing that all these nuances, someone's individual health context, their financial situation, maybe the suffering of people around them, you can't just slack a one-size-fits-all message on that.
This next idea really shifts how we think about our own experience. The expert uses a monopoly analogy. Think about it. 2 people land on the exact same property. Let's say it's Park Lane, right?
Okay.
The objective event is identical, but depending on where they are in the game, who owns it already, their cash flow, their overall mindset, they will interpret that exact same event completely differently.
That's a great analogy. It's like we're essentially creating the genre of the movie we're living in day by
In a
day.
genre, like comedy romance.
Yeah, or horror, or action. We make these choices often unconsciously through what we consume, news, social media, how we spend our time, and critically, how we choose to think about things. This is where she introduces self-coaching.
Self-coaching, okay.
Just asking yourself simple questions. What glasses am I wearing right now? Is this particular interpretation helping me? Is there maybe a more beneficial way I could look at the situation?
That makes sense. So applying that,
Yeah.
what does this mean for experts or anyone trying to be relevant and helpful in really unusual times like these?
Our expert really emphasizes being realistic and transparent, even sharing their own struggles.
Which feels counterintuitive, maybe. We often put experts on a pedestal, expecting perfection.
Right.
Why does showing vulnerability actually build more trust?
It ties directly into psychological research on likability, actually. There was this classic study, interviewees who accidentally spilled coffee on themselves during an interview. They were rated as significantly more likable than those who gave flawless answers.
No way.
Yeah, it's like those movie tropes, the seemingly perfect, beautiful character who trips or drops her books. It's a deliberate move to make them relatable. People often have an aversion to someone who seems too perfect. It feels inauthentic because deep down, we know nobody's truly flawless. Imperfection connects us.
That relatability factor, it's huge in leadership too, isn't it? Historically or even now.
Absolutely. Think about, say, Pharaoh Akhenaten. He tried to abolish all the gods, declare himself divine, and his people turned against him. Compare that to the Jesus archetype, someone who suffered, made mistakes, was deeply relatable.
Right.
Or look at modern figures, Richard Branson, Elon Musk, Robert Kiyosaki, Tony Robbins, even fictional ones like Batman. Their origin story, their anti-steps, the suffering, the mistakes, the hardships they overcame, that's what makes them relatable. It makes their message land with more impact.
It's that why factor again, isn't it?
It really is. If you don't believe someone has actually felt the same kind of challenges you have, it's incredibly difficult to trust their advice or guidance. Remember that Celebrity Imagine video during the lockdowns?
Oh yeah, that got quite a
It's a
reaction.
huge negative reaction, mostly, because people saw these celebrities in their huge mansions, seemingly completely out of touch with the struggles everyday people were facing. It wasn't relatable, and it caused a breakdown in trust. That's why we love rags to riches stories, right? We connect with the journey. It all links back to Simon Sinek's idea of knowing your why, and even Viktor Frankl's man's search for meaning. Understanding purpose helps us endure hardship and builds that crucial emotional connection.
This really gets to the core of how we frame our world. Let's dig into these mindsets even more. The expert highlights the incredible power of language in shaping our reality. She draws this parallel between that corporate misery talk we discussed.
The "oh, it's Monday" stuff.
Yeah, and even clinical labels. She points out the difference between saying someone has depression, which sounds permanent, versus saying someone is going through a depressive period.
Right. The second one implies fluidity, changeability.
Yeah.
The first can create this fixed lens, suggesting it's just how things are, maybe forever. It limits perception.
And this connects directly to something called the Pygmalion effect, right?
Yeah.
The self-fulfilling prophecy idea.
Exactly. Classic school studies showed this powerfully. Teachers were told randomly that certain students were spurters or particularly bright. Even though there was no actual difference in ability, those kids got more attention, more encouragement from the teacher, and their performance actually improved significantly.
Wow. Just based on the teacher's expectation.
It's the expectation. And it applies to adults in the workplace, too. We tend to live up or down to what's expected of us. So the big insight here is our expectations, the labels we use for ourselves and others, they aren't just passive thoughts. They actively shape our reality. They're self-fulfilling prophecies.
Yeah, that's both powerful and a little unsettling to think about. So this brings us to what our expert calls these corona personas, or maybe better, lenses. And the really key thing you're saying is that these are fluid. They're states we move through, not fixed labels.
Precisely. She really doesn't want people saying, oh, that's just me, I'm a doomer, because that locks you in, right?
Yeah.
It limits your ability to adapt and change your perspective. It's like Carol Dweck's work on growth mindset. The idea that our abilities aren't fixed, we can always grow through effort rather than being stuck.
Okay, so these lenses are tools we can potentially change. What are the four she identifies?
Okay, so first, there are the doomers. These are the pessimists. They focus almost exclusively on the negative impacts, especially economic ones. They might believe recovery is impossible and tend to share only bad news.
Got it. The doomers. Who's next?
Then you have the refuters. These are more the skeptics, maybe leaning into conspiracy theories. They essentially deny the reality of the situation, perhaps believing it's all a fabrication or exaggerated.
Okay, refuters, number 3.
Third are the believers. Sometimes she calls them Destiny's children. They tend to see the situation as fated, maybe destiny, perhaps a consequence of human actions like materialism. Often there's a spiritual element, seeing it as a kind of great equalizer.
Interesting. And the fourth lens.
And finally, number 4, the realistic optimists. We touched on them earlier. They fully acknowledge the challenges, the difficulties are real, but they focus on what they can do. Individual actions to get through it, support others, maybe find opportunities for growth within the constraints. Hope and pragmatism are really central for them.
Realistic optimists. Okay, so doomers, refuters, believers, and realistic optimists.
And the real beauty, the empowering part of framing them as lenses, is the choice it gives you. If you find yourself looking through a lens that isn't serving you, that's making you feel worse or hindering you, you can consciously try to take it off and put on another one.
Like trying on different glasses.
Exactly. And true optimism, in this view, isn't about denying suffering exists. It's about acknowledging the hardships, but actively choosing how you perceive them, looking for lessons, focusing on what you can control.
That's a really important distinction. Because just being blindly positive, well, it doesn't always help, does it? Like her car analogy, if you're optimistic about getting to your friend's house, that's great.
Yeah.
But if your car windows are caked in mud so you can't see, you don't have a map,
That optimism alone isn't going to get you there.
right, saying everything's fine is just as incomplete as saying everything's awful if you don't have accurate self-assessment and a clear sense of direction. It's not about blind positivity.
It reminds me of that old parable, the African shoe salesman story. You know the one?
Vaguely refresh my memory.
2 salesmen go to Africa. The first one comes back totally dejected. Bad news, terrible market. They don't even wear shoes there.
Yeah.
The second one comes back ecstatic. Amazing news, incredible opportunity. They don't even wear shoes there. We can be the first.
The classic optimist versus pessimist.
Right. But the deeper research or follow-up on that story, as our expert tells it, found that the optimistic salesman initially failed. He invested heavily in shoes, but people didn't actually need or want shoes.
Oh,
However, because he was there, humble, observing, he realized what they did need was hats because of the intense sun. So he pivoted his business to hats and became wildly successful.
so the lesson isn't just be optimistic.
No,
Right.
it's that different perspectives, even the seemingly pessimistic or cautious ones, they don't wear shoes, provide valuable information. Success came from combining that initial optimistic drive with humility, observation, and adaptation to the real needs.
That makes so much sense. And this all seems to loop back to her core idea from her book,
Oh.
that happiness isn't just a state you are, it's something you do.
Yes, exactly. It's a doing. It emerges from consistent actions, consistent thought processes. It requires active participation, not passive waiting.
So how do we actively participate? How do we bridge that gap between something happening to us and how we respond?
Well, this leads perfectly into another powerful framework she uses. It draws from Chris Argyris's ladder of influence, but she simplifies it a bit, calling it the ladder of conclusions. It's a fantastic way to understand that link, that chain reaction between a stimulus and our ultimate response.
Okay, a ladder of conclusions. Let's
Right.
climb it. What are the rungs? You mentioned we often skip the middle one.
We totally do. Okay, so run 1, stimulus. Something happens externally. An event occurs. A noise. Someone says something, you see something.
Okay, stimulus.
Rung 2, biological reaction. Almost instantly, your body reacts physiologically. Maybe tension creeps into your shoulders, you hold your breath, maybe you feel heat rise in your face, or even a spontaneous smile. It's physical.
Right, that gut reaction.
Exactly. Rung 3, emotion and thought. Now you start interpreting that physical sensation. You put a label on it. Is it fear, joy, annoyance, anger? What thought accompanies that feeling?
Okay, feeling and thought.
Rung 4. This is crucial. Belief lens. You automatically tap into a pre-existing belief system that shapes how you interpret everything up to this point. So, using her tiger example, if a tiger suddenly appears, your underlying belief might be, I'm too young to die, or maybe life is dangerous, I'm doomed. That belief colors everything.
Ah, the lens we were talking about earlier.
Precisely. And finally, rung 5, conclusion action. Based on all the previous steps, filtered through your belief lens, you arrive at a conclusion and take an action. Do you run from the tiger? Freeze! try to fight.
Okay. Stimulus, biological reaction, emotion, thought, belief lens, conclusion, action.
And the amazing thing, the power in this model, is realizing we often jump straight from stimulus to conclusion action, completely bypassing conscious awareness of those middle rungs, the feeling, the thought, the belief.
We just react.
We just react. But by learning to pause, to become aware of those middle steps, to consciously unpack our automatic thoughts, our emotions, and especially those underlying beliefs, we can become a circuit breaker.
A circuit breaker. How does that work?
It means you insert choice into the process by going back, maybe questioning that automatic thought, is this really doom? Or examining the belief, is that belief actually true or helpful right now? You can consciously choose to change your conclusion and therefore your action.
So you can rewire your response.
You can absolutely rewire your response. And that is incredibly empowering, especially when dealing with big challenges, health scares, job insecurity, family worries. The external circumstances might not magically change.
Right. The tiger might still be there.
The tiger might still be there. But the knowledge that we can actually change an outcome, meaning our internal experience and our chosen response if we want to, that provides a profound sense of agency. Even if the external result looks the same, knowing you consciously chose how you responded, that brings a sense of control and peace that's invaluable.
Wow. Okay. So wrapping this deep dive up,
Mm-hmm.
what are the really crucial takeaways for you, for our listeners?
I think first and foremost, it's the importance of self-compassion, really going easy on ourselves, recognizing that our mindsets aren't fixed, they're fluid. Understanding the immense power our language has, how we talk to ourselves and about our situations. And crucially, realizing we have this ability, this choice, to examine and potentially change the lenses we look through and how we respond, even when things feel totally uncertain.
Yeah, our expert's core message really boils down to go easy on yourself. Life is tough. It is often a struggle with so many pressures pulling us every which way. But also know that small things, tiny shifts can change our state. And maybe just as important, surround yourself with the right people and the right environments. People who lift you up, not drain you.
That's great advice. So here's something to leave you with, a final thought to maybe chew on. In this world of constant change, endless information coming at us, how can we get better at continuously reevaluating our inherent lenses, those deep-seated beliefs and interpretations we all carry? How do we do that not just to cope, but to actually thrive and find real meaning, even in the unexpected? Maybe take a moment today to consider, which lens are you wearing right now? And is it truly serving your highest potential? That's a powerful question, and if you want to explore our experts' work further, learn more about those 4 corona personas or lenses, and get her 3 science-backed steps for elevating your state, you can find her easily online. She's active on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, even TikTok for quick, practical tips. We'll also make sure there's a link to that handout she provides summarizing these key concepts. Her approach is really unique, practical, non-judgmental, definitely worth checking